Welcome to the Papa Dennis Show. I am Dennis Elliott. This is Friday, October 30th, 2020, and we welcome you to the program here today. Got quite a few things we're going to discuss. Friday, October 30th, that means today and tomorrow are the only 2 days you've got left to early vote in North Carolina. All right, so get out and vote. And if you've got a mail-in ballot, don't put that sucker in the mail. Take it and drop it off at an early voting site. You don't have to stand in line. You can just take it right inside to a voting official and drop it off, or you can take it to the Board of Elections office and drop it off. That's for mail-in ballots. Don't put them in the mail. Too late for that, all right? But get out and vote, okay? Let's see. We'll at the end of the show today, we'll take a look at the latest early voting statistics in North Carolina and see where we stand. Wanted to start off talking about a subject that we've talked about in the last couple of shows. This will be the third show in a row. The Hunter Biden controversy, using air quotes for those of you listening to the podcast. The Hunter Biden scandal, again, air quotes. We talked about Tucker Carlson losing his documents that he had sent in, and talking about, the real mystery of these damning documents that supposedly he hadn't made a copy of, but we find out now that he had made a copy of them, and that it wasn't documents that were sent. It was actually a flash drive that was sent. So he had the documents all along. It didn't matter that UPS had lost the flash drive that he had sent. So I don't understand what the big controversy was. Well, as a matter of fact, there was no real controversy. They were trying to make something out of this. But anyway, UPS, as I announced at the end of the story yesterday when we were talking about this, UPS announced yesterday that they had found it. And he acknowledges that, yeah, they've got the documents. And then he says, well, we had a copy of them anyway. So, it didn't really matter. They're just making a big deal out of the fact that UPS had lost the package, implying that there's some sort of big scandal with it, that somebody was trying to get the documents. UPS just lost the package briefly, okay, and they found it. But let me show you this. This is interesting. Now, suddenly, Tucker Carlson says it's time to leave Hunter Biden alone. Now that he's got the documents back that were supposedly stolen, they're not important anymore. These damning documents that supposedly were going to bring down Vice President Joe Biden, suddenly the documents are not important. Tucker said that while UPS found the flash drive containing his, quote, damning Hunter Biden documents, he still believes that someone tried to purposely steal the documents, which, what would be the point if you've got copies of them? What would it matter if the documents were stolen? None of this makes sense. If you're trying to find the logic in this, it doesn't exist, okay? None of this makes sense. It didn't make sense from the beginning because there's nothing to the story from the beginning. As I told you, the Wall Street Journal basically came out and said there's nothing to this, and Vice President Joe Biden didn't do anything wrong. But now that they got the documents back, Fox News host Tucker Carlson said that he didn't want to be involved with piling on Joe Biden's son. Suddenly, this is not important. Suddenly, the documents aren't damning anymore, apparently. Suddenly, the documents are not important enough to really even talk about it anymore. So he's just going to drop the whole story. Doesn't that sound weird? Of course it sounds weird because there was nothing to the story to begin with. He was probably very happy that UPS had lost the package because then he could pretend that these very important documents were stolen and somebody was trying to prevent the story from coming out when he had a copy of them anyway. Um, so apparently, he tried to make a big deal out of the documents, out of the flash drive disappearing from UPS, and implying that somebody tried to steal it. But of course, that doesn't make any sense anyway because he already had a copy of it. There were copies of this all around anyway. So what did it matter that UPS had lost the package? Um, he said. He suddenly took a step back, noting that they were still assessing the documents in question. I thought these were damning documents that they had already verified. He had maintained they'd been verified to be real, and then he goes on to say, "We get an awful lot of documents, and we haven't aired them. We." It's not important anymore because there was nothing to the story to begin with. If you still have people trying to make something out of this, forget it, okay? It's a dead story. Um, he actually goes on and tries to make people feel sorry for Hunter Biden, said he's a fallen man at this point. Said that he once knew the younger Biden well. He said, "I never thought Hunter Biden was a bad person. Thought he had demons, but in the time I knew him, he kept them mostly under control." He said, "Probably too strong to say we feel sorry for Hunter Biden, but the point is pounding on a man, jumping on, piling on when he's already down is something that we don't want to be involved in." It's amazing. But here's the real story behind all of this. Yesterday afternoon, it came out. NBC News reported that a 64-page dossier alleging a complex conspiracy involving Hunter Biden and China had actually been authored by a fake persona, the fake document, which had been floating around the far-right web for a month before the New York Post published their controversial article about those theories, was eventually disseminated by close associates of the president. So basically, it was all fake. All right. And that's why Hunter Carlson is suddenly not interested in this story any longer. It just, we don't want to pile on Hunter anymore. He's got some problems, and he says we need to just leave it alone. All right, let's go on to some real stories. All right. Early voting in Texas. Let me show you this. Get this up on the screen. Early voting in Texas today, it was announced, surpasses 100% of the total 2016 turnout. This is absolutely stunning. This is amazing. 4 days left until Election Day. I think in Texas today is the last day of early voting. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I heard. But so they've got the rest of today to pile on more votes before the election. But more than 9 million people have cast ballots early in Texas. In 2016, Texas was just short of 9 million votes. This is absolutely stunning. And what does it mean for the election? What does it mean for Joe Biden? When you have this many new voters coming out to vote that hadn't voted before, you got to wonder, are these new voters all Trump supporters? Who are these people that are coming out to vote? Or are they people who have been motivated by the specter of another Trump presidency to come out and vote for Biden? You got to hope it's the latter. More than 8 million Texans have voted early in person. More than 947,000 have voted by mail. Statewide, voter turnout has topped 53% already. And they're doing this in spite of the fact that Texas has tried to suppress the vote. Only having one drop-off location for absentee ballots in each county. But still, counties throughout the state have posted record early voting turnout. In Harris County, the state's largest, more than 1.3 million people have voted in person or by mail. Here it is. In-person early voting ends today in Texas. The state will continue to accept absentee ballots through Election Day. Nationwide, more than 80 million Americans have cast ballots early. Hawaii is the only other state so far that has exceeded total 2016 turnout, 457,000 ballots cast in Hawaii. Hawaii's a reliable blue state. So that's probably why you haven't heard much about the voting in Hawaii, because they're reliably very blue. All right. In 10 other states, including the battlegrounds of Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina, early voting has surpassed 80% of the total turnout from 2016. So we're still doing good. Now, this is something to look at and feel good about. Within this early voting boom, youth turnout seems to be surging. And I think the younger voters are going to go more for Biden and the Democrats than they would for Trump. Let me find the poll released this week by Harvard University's Institute of Politics surveyed 18 to 29-year-olds and found that 63% said they would definitely vote in the election. That is the highest proportion of respondents in the 20 years that the poll of young voters has been conducted. So this is a poll that's been done every election year, and this is the highest turnout that we've seen of young voters. This is good news. This is very good news. This could bode well for Biden and the Democrats in the election, and bad for Trump. Analysis of early voting electorate suggests that young voters are set to make up a larger share than they did in 2016 or 2018. And, you know, the 2018 vote for Congress and Senate was really good for Democrats. More than 6 million voters under 30 have already cast early ballots, according to the Democratic data firm TargetSmart, compared with roughly 2 million early votes at the same time in 2016. And according to TargetSmart CEO Tom Bonnier, the number of early voters under 30 who are voting for the first time in their life is more than double the number of first-time voters at this point in the 2016 election. So this is looking good. The groundswell of early voting among young people is visible in a number of the key states that both parties are targeting. And it says here the figures are particularly dramatic in Texas. We were just talking about how Texas has voted so far this year. Texas is a state that's been known for low overall voter participation, including among young voters, but turnout among young Texans really went up in 2018. And then analysis of early voting suggests that young voters in that state could be on pace to set records this year. More than 800,000 voters under 30 have already voted in Texas. 66% of them did not vote in 2016. This is why it looks good. This is I'm hopeful here. All right. Florida, 514,000 young voters have cast their ballots already, hundreds of thousands more than had done so in a similar period ahead of the 2016 election. So nationwide, young voters, it's looking very, very good. So we've just looking here at a comment on the show. Any way to call in? No, this is not a call-in show. You can make comments here though, if you want to, but no way to call in. It's not a radio call-in show. This is an online streaming show. And another comment there from I don't know how to pronounce that name, but so all right. So it's looking good with young people. 66 million Americans already cast ballots. The Harvard Youth Poll released earlier this week showed a significant increase in Biden's favorability with voters under 30, with 47% viewing him favorably, 41% unfavorably. In the spring, 34% viewed Biden favorably and 47% viewed him unfavorably. So his favorability rating has gone up. Now, can we trust the polls this year? I'm hesitant to trust them. I'm hopeful that we can trust the polls this year, but we know what happened in 2016. Even though the polls were not really that far off, because the polls said that Hillary Clinton was going to win, and she did win the popular vote. It's that damned electoral college that she lost. That's something we need to get rid of. I've talked about that before. We'll continue talking about that. But she did actually win the popular vote. She had more votes, way more votes, thousands more votes than Donald Trump has. But it was because of the electoral college that Trump was elected. So can we trust the polls this year? I don't know. But there was something in here in this story. Let me find it here. One thing is certain. The averages this time have Biden up. All right. In the last presidential election between Trump and Hillary Clinton, the polling averages intersected every couple of months, weaving their way towards an endpoint that depicted Clinton ahead by 3 points. She won the popular vote by 2 points. So the polls were not that far off. Again, it was electoral college. Could that happen again this time? Well, let's look at this. The averages this time have Biden up by 7.5 points, according to Real Clear Politics, 9 points, according to the New York Times Upshot poll, and 9 points, according to 538, depicting a lead that is 2 or 3 times larger than that depicted for Clinton. But it's not won through the popular vote. But if you look at this, even if the polls were as wrong as they were in 2016, which was very wrong indeed, since Trump won, Biden still would look to be ahead in the 3 key states that Trump won that year. In Wisconsin, the number has moved from 5.3 points 4 years ago to 8 points. In Michigan, from 4.2 points to 8.1 point. Let me find out here to the I'm looking for the all right. Even if the polls were as wrong as they were in 2016, Biden still has enough of a lead to where if the polls were wrong, and they're as wrong this year as they were in 2016, Biden would still win. All right. That's because Biden has much more of a lead. Even if you take away the lead, even if you assume that the polls are wrong and take away that lead, he's still in the lead. That's what I'm trying to say. I hope that's not confusing. So, can we trust the polls this year? I don't know. I hope we can come out of this election this year and be able to trust the polls from now on, because not being able to trust the polls, you just don't know what's going on. All right. It's hard to assume things. It's hard to figure out things that are going on if you can't trust the polls. But we'll just have to wait and see. But it's looking good. All right. It's looking a lot better. So we can remain hopeful. This is interesting right here. Trump lashing out at the Supreme Court for, let me get rid of that. Okay. Trump lashing out at the Supreme Court for action on North Carolina mail-in ballots. This just happened today. Donald Trump just today lashed out at the Supreme Court for rejecting a bid by Republicans in North Carolina to block an extended period for receiving mail-in ballots. In Wednesday's ruling, the Supreme Court let stand a decision by North Carolina's election board that set a grace period of 9 days. In other words, if your mail-in ballot is postmarked on November 3rd, I'm telling you, don't mail it in if you're still holding on to that thing, okay? Don't do it. You're taking too much of a chance. But if you have mailed it in, and if you are going to mail it in, as long as it's postmarked by November 3rd, even if it's received 9 days after November 3rd, we'll be able to count that ballot. That is what Trump is upset about. That's what the Republicans are upset about. They don't want those votes counted. They'd rather have those votes thrown out, even if they were valid ballots. It's because that's what Republicans do. Republicans don't want you to vote, okay? Republicans want to suppress the vote. They figure the fewer people that vote, the better chance they have of winning elections. So that's their sole purpose in life, is to prevent you from being able to vote. Don't let Republicans do that to you, all right? And hopefully, if Biden wins and if we get a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House, I hope we can pass some laws in this country to prevent this sort of voter suppression from going on. But this is what Trump's upset about today, because they don't want your votes to count. All right. All right. North Carolina early voting statistics. This is through yesterday. 3,867,846. Let me refresh that. Make sure that I've got that updated. Okay. All right. Nope. Didn't have that updated. This is through, actually, this is counting some of today, last report today. So this includes some people that have voted through today, I guess. At least the report was compiled today. 4 million people voted. Look at this: 4,083,968 total voted. Let's go down here to the breakdown, and I think that is I think that's larger than it was yesterday. 38.1% Democrats, 31.5% Republicans. I think that margin has increased. Now let's look at in-person votes and see how it's going. 3,200,004 votes so far in North Carolina, and in-person voting. This one is narrowing. It looks like 35.9% Democrats, 34.6% Republicans. So it must be because of mail-in ballots that are coming in. Returned mail-in ballots so far, return rate, look at that, 61% Democrats, 62% Republicans now, as far as the mail-in ballots go. So percentage-wise, Republicans have a return rate higher than Democrats, but the total number of Democratic ballots way outstrips the number of Republican ballots. And look at no party affiliation, 293,000 there. So, and a lot of those are going to be Democratic votes in the no party affiliation. And you can't assume that all of the Democratic votes are for Biden, and you can't assume all the Republican votes are for Trump. But looking at that, it's looking good in North Carolina. What kind of percentage do we have? Percent return in Guilford County, 58.2%. So total voted right now in North Carolina, 4,083,968. We still got the rest of today for you to get out and vote. We've still got tomorrow for you to get out and vote. So get out there, okay? You've still got time, and if you wait until Tuesday to vote, looks like the weather's going to be nice on Tuesday. It might be a little bit chilly, but you'll be able to get out and vote on Tuesday, and we'll see how things change on Tuesday. Remember, in North Carolina, as soon as the polls close, they're going to release the early voting and the mail-in ballots results as soon as the polls close. So we will know how the early voting and the mail-in balloting went as soon as the polls close on Tuesday night, which is around 7:30, I think, in North Carolina. So we'll be able to see how much of a lead, and if Biden has, I've heard, I think that if I'm not sure if it's North Carolina, might be North Carolina, but I think I heard that if the Biden lead of early voting and mail-in balloting is 10 points ahead of Trump, then it's going to be pretty safe. That Tuesday voting, he probably couldn't make up a percentage spread like that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But that's where we stand right now. All right. Get out there and vote. Let's push this over. I wish in North Carolina we could have done the same thing that Texas did. That would have been a bold statement to make. So have yourself a great weekend. If you haven't voted yet, get out and vote. If you've still got a mail-in ballot, don't mail it, okay? Don't trust the mail service at this late date. Take it and drop it off. So that's about it, I guess. Thanks for joining us today on the Papa Dennis Show. I am Dennis Elliott, and have yourself a great weekend. And we will, I doubt I'll talk to you over the weekend. If we do, it'll be a surprise to both you and me. But otherwise, we'll probably talk to you next week. Hopefully, we'll talk to you before Wednesday. I hope I can do something on Monday or Tuesday next week. We'll wait and see. But thanks for joining us. I'm Dennis Elliott, Papa Dennis Show, and